So this event is in collaboration with the Los Angeles Regional Consortium made up of the 19 community colleges in the LA region. The regional advisories such as this are conversations between community college faculty and industry leaders to really identify trends and skills and competencies to align that with talent development programs and pathways. So this engagement and partnership between LARC and employers from high growth industry sectors is to really help prepare students for sustainable employment and careers. Next up, we have Dr. McKeegan, who is the chair and assistant vice president of the Los Angeles Regional Consortium here.
Thank you so much, Alicia, and the entire LAEDC team. Good morning, everyone. I'm Narina McKeegan, the chair, assistant vice president of the Los Angeles Regional Consortium. I promised the team that I'm going to keep this short so that we could have impactful dialogue around our programs with LA19 as well as the industry. So it is truly a pleasure, and I'm really excited to welcome you all today. Your presence and expertise are truly invaluable assets to our career and technical education programs, and we're honored and grateful to have you as part of our construction program advisory. Just really quickly, LARC is actually LA's 19 community colleges coordinating body, and we collectively deliver on a promise to California community colleges that our programs are accessible and affordable to all who seek opportunities to realize a better future. We collaborate with K-12 partners, high road employers, and priority industries to align impactful curriculum and workforce training programs, creating seamless pathways for college and career readiness. So we deeply appreciate your commitment to supporting our programs, and we look forward to this discussion, talking about innovative ideas and collaborative initiatives. Together, we can truly create an enriching learning environment that prepares our students to become leaders and innovators in this industry. Once again, thank you for joining us, and thank you to the LAEDC team, as well as Luke Meyer from the Centers of Excellence. All of your dedication and expertise are invaluable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. McKeegan. Next, we have Jermaine Hampton, who's the Vice President of Workforce Development and Special Projects here as well.
Thank you, Alicia. And I, like Dr. McKeegan, will be very brief as well. Just really want to say thank you to all our partners, and thank you as well to obviously all of the colleges who are participating in this event. This is a really great time to talk about construction and to talk about infrastructure in particular, and all of the opportunities that are going to help grow our regional economy. And our mission at LAEDC is reinventing our economy to collaboratively advance growth and prosperity for all. And so in the spirit of that, these program advisories really help drive that process. It really helps us tap into developing a more equitable talent pipeline, really uplifting our community colleges, our partners, and more importantly, actually connecting industry to education. A lot of times we don't have those intentional conversations. And because we have an approach of inclusive economic development, we want to make sure that we close that gap and bridge that gap. And so that being said, thank you all again for joining today, and looking forward to a really great conversation, and hopefully it's very impactful as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jermaine. Now we have Matthew Skybird, who is the GIS research analyst within LAEDC's Institute for Applied Economics, who will be presenting the current landscape within construction. Matthew?
Hey, thank you, Alicia. Thank you for having me here today, and thanks everyone for attending. So as Alicia said, I'm the GIS research analyst at the Institute for Applied Economics with LAEDC. And today I'm just going to be sharing a number of aspects of the heavy and civil engineering construction industry, including the current landscape of industry employment, the anticipated future employment looking forward, trends regarding job postings, and finally, the industry worker demographics for heavy and civil engineering construction. Next slide, or actually this slide, sorry. So just looking at that one, the subsector includes four NAICS four-digit industry groups, which include utility system construction, land subdivision, highway, street, and bridge construction, and finally, other heavy and civil engineering construction. And so we'll start with the current landscape in the industry. Looking at this chart, we can see that heavy and civil engineering construction has employed over 15,000 people since 2018. And that number has grown to over 17,000 in 2022. Payroll employment fell by about 16% or around 2,200 jobs in between 2013 and 2016, but it's rebounded and continued to grow since. And from 2016 through 2022, employment grew by 50.3%, which added more than 5,800 net new jobs in this period. And heavy and civil engineering construction was designated as essential industry early on in the pandemic. So employment was not negatively impacted. And they continued to grow during that time and have experienced increased rate of growth since. Next slide. So as we look at the distribution of employment, comparing 2012 to 2022, we can see that utility system construction is accounted for nearly 50%, right around 50%, both those time periods, as well as highway, street, and bridge construction account for approximately 25%. And those two industries have remained consistent over that decade. The employment share of other heavy and civil engineering construction nearly doubled in that time. However, it was at the expense of land subdivision, which saw payroll jobs fall to nearly half in that same period. Next slide. So as we look at average annual pay, all four industries in heavy and civil engineering construction have average annual earnings which exceed the MIT living wage. And across the subsector, the industry with the highest average annual wage is other heavy and civil engineering construction, which is over $135,000 per year, that exceeds 3 times the living wage threshold. The heavy and civil engineering construction subsector as a whole was nearly $120,000 per year. And compared to the construction sector as a whole, that was much higher because I was just at $79,000. And LA County as a whole is $84,000. So you can see these jobs are exceeding the industry, the construction industry as a whole, as well as LA County as a whole. Next slide. As we look at the real wage growth over the decade from 2012 to 2022, real wages grew at varying rates across the subsector, with other heavy and civil engineering, which saw real wages grow at 22%, leading the way, followed by land subdivision, which was at 10.5%, and utility system construction, which grew at 8.8%, and finally, heavy street and bridge construction, which grew at 7.2%. So overall, the real wages in heavy and civil engineering construction subsector grew by almost 7%, which outpaced the construction industry as a whole by over 4 percentage points. So this is an industry that's growing faster than the rest of the construction industry. Next slide. And forecasted employment, we can see that looking from 2022 to 2028, employment is expected to continue to grow to nearly 19,000 jobs by 2028. So that works out to an increase of approximately 9%. And this will add just under 1,600 net new jobs over the next 6 years at a rate of about 260 new jobs per year. Next slide. So while the overall heavy and civil engineering construction industries are expected to grow at 9% through 2028, the growth is not uniform across all industries in the subsector. We can see that utility system construction is forecasted to have the highest rate of growth, where it's going to exceed 20% at 20.6%. Other heavy and civil engineering construction is also forecasted to see significant growth at nearly 13%. However, highway, street, and bridge construction is expected to fall at 6.4%, and land subdivision is having a significant fall at just over 28%. But as a whole, the heavy and civil engineering construction industry is expected to grow at that 9% through 2028. Next slide. Okay, so now as we turn to employer job postings, we can see that the job postings did peak in 2019 with more than 2,670 jobs, compared to just over 570 in 2012. So the rate of growth was significant during that time. Over the entire decade, we can see that the growth has not been entirely steady. There was dips in 2016 and 17, as well as dips in 2020, but overall the growth has been significant. And the highway, street and bridge, or sorry, the utility system construction industry, so see in the pie chart on the right, they represent over 35% of total job postings in this time period. And highway, street and bridge construction is close behind at 32.5%. And then other heavy and civil engineering construction is at 18.3, and land subdivision accounted for 13.6% of job postings in this time period. Next slide. So as we look at the job postings broken out by industry from 2012 to 2022, we can see that in 2022, utility system construction has grown to be the leader. This was due to a rapid push between 2017 and 2019, which pushed it as the leading component industry in terms of job opportunity. We also see job postings in land subdivision have increased from the lowest level in 2012 to the second most in 2022. And highway, street and bridge construction has experienced the most variabilities, you know, some peaks and valleys with that one. And finally, land subdivision is, or sorry, other heavy civil and engineering construction has been the most steady, but in 2022, they had the fewest job postings of the 4 sub-industries. Next slide. So here we can see the year-to-year growth for the sub-industries. Land subdivision, shown in orange, had the most variability year-to-year since 2012. And utility system construction, highway, street, and bridge construction have also had some years of nearly 200% growth, but also some years of decline. While other heavy and civil engineering has been the most stable year to year. Next slide. With this chart, we look at the concentration of job postings in the top 5 companies by the number of job postings for each sub-industry. And we can see that most sub-industries have a high concentration, with all exceeding 50% of job postings coming from the top 5 companies in those sub-industries. And land subdivision is the most concentrated, with over 70% of unique job postings coming from the top 5 companies in that sub-industry. Next slide. So as we look at the top 5 companies in the overall heavy and civil engineering construction industry and their shared job postings, we can see that the top 5 companies accounted for nearly 40% of the job postings. So it is fairly concentrated. These companies include SMCI, which is Sierra Mountain Construction Incorporated. They're a Northern California-based heavy civil construction company. We also have County of Los Angeles Department of Public Works. Henkels & McCoy, which design, builds, and maintains infrastructure for utility and communication markets. KBR, which works with governments and other companies around the world to deliver science, technology, and engineering solutions. And P2S, which is a consulting, engineering, commissioning, and construction management firm. Right, next slide. So now we'll turn to the industry demographics and start with the worker's age. We can see that it's fairly similar in heavy and civil engineering construction industry compared to all industries in LA County. Over 40% of employees in the industry are between ages 25 and 44, or it's about 3% more than overall all industries in Los Angeles County. Right, next slide. And in educational attainment, we can see that about 19% of employees in heavy and civil engineering construction industry have a bachelor's degree, which is 8% less than other industries in Los Angeles County. Compared to other industries, heavy and civil engineering construction jobs have a lower proportion of employees with some college experience or a bachelor's degree. So that accounts for almost 48% of employees compared to over 53% in all industries. Next slide. And as we look at the race and ethnicity of workers, the workforce in heavy and civil engineering construction subsector is diverse, with over half of its workers reporting its ethnicity as Hispanic or Latino. which is nearly 14 percentage points higher than the all industry average in Los Angeles County. However, Asian and Pacific Islander workers are underrepresented with only 6% of workers compared to 16% across all industries. And Black or African American workers are also underrepresented with just over 4% of workers compared to nearly 8% across all industries. Next slide. And looking at the gender of workers, we can see that the industry is heavily skewed male, with those reporting as male accounting for over 83% of the industry, which is over 30 percentage points higher when compared to all industries in Los Angeles County. Next slide. So now we'll turn to the target occupations and their associated demographics. The 5 occupations identified in this table are accessible to workers with a community college level education, such as some college or associate degree. And about 61 to 90% of workers in these occupations have an educational attainment of more than high school diploma, but less than a bachelor's degree. So the vast majority of the workers fall in that group. These target occupations include first line supervisors of construction trades and extraction workers, construction managers, electrical power line installers and repairers, cost estimators, and construction and building inspectors. So again, we can see that the female workers are significantly underrepresented across these occupations, accounting for only 2.3% of workers in electrical power line installers and repairers at the lowest end. And at the highest end with cost estimators are still only at 18.7%. Black or African American workers are also the most underrepresented in cost estimators and in construction managers occupations, where they account for only 1.4% and 2.9% respectively. And Latino workers are also the most underrepresented in cost estimators and construction manager occupations, where they account for just under a third of the workers, when they're the vast majority of workers in the industry. And across these 5 occupations, over 55% of workers are prime working age, between 25 to 54 years old. So that's compares to just 43% across all industries, or that's 12% higher in these occupations. All right, next slide. So in conclusion, we'll just look at some of the key takeaways. So real wages have grown over 11% overall in the heavy and civil engineering construction subsector between 2012 and 2022. All industries in the subsector pay a living wage in Los Angeles County, and exceed it by significantly, at the highest one over 3 times the living wage. Utility system construction industry is expected to grow the most through 2028, with growth over 20%. And other heavy and civil engineering industry is expected to grow nearly 13% through 2028. And finally, employment is expected to grow nearly 10% on average across all heavy and civil engineering construction industries through 2028. So we are seeing growth. We are seeing very competitive wages, and the education requirements align with what we're looking for. So this is definitely an industry that is tracking towards growth and for the economy in Los Angeles County. So in conclusion, thank you all for your time and attention. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at matthew.skyberg@laedc.org, and I'd be happy to engage with you. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Next up, we have Luke Meyer, who is the director for the Los Angeles Center of Excellence for Labor Market Research, hosted at Mount San Antonio College, who will be presenting the Community College Talent Supply.
All right, thank you. That was great information, Matt, to see the growth and strong wages. I promise to be brief because, you know, we have a lot of great employers here and representatives from our colleges, and the main purpose is to get everybody talking, you know, to meet the hiring needs of the employers and also to get our students jobs. So briefly, our construction programs at the LA community colleges are focused on some of these areas listed here. There's a accompanying lookbook that everyone will receive. But our construction programs are primarily focused at 15 of our 19 colleges, although it's worth noting that all 19 offer engineering programs of some type that can provide foundational knowledge for a lot of these careers. Next slide. So here is a list that is also in the lookbook, programs focused on architecture and drafting, welding, construction management, energy systems technology, and you can see the colleges listed here. So the employers that are on the call, if you have specific hiring needs in any of these areas, this would direct you towards some of the colleges. In the back of the lookbook, there are specific contact information for those programs at those colleges. So I won't go through them in detail here. You can see them here and in the lookbook. And then this is not an exhaustive list. There are a lot of other programs there listed at the bottom. And if you need to know which colleges offer those programs, I'd be more than happy to assist with that. Next slide. So when we look at our, more broadly, construction programs are housed within our energy, construction, and utilities sector. And when we look at that sector over the last 10 years, starting off with just over 16,000 students, we're now at about 13,500 at the LA colleges. So we'll look at those 13,500 students in the next slides. This is where the most students are enrolled in these programs. So LA Trade Tech leads the way with over 3,000 students. You see Rio Hondo, Cerritos, Pasadena, all enrolling over 1,000 students. And you can see on down the line with West LA having the smallest offerings and then on up. So this is where, if you're looking for students in these areas, the colleges that will most likely have the most students. Next slide. And our students, this kind of mirrors the industry data that Matt was saying, where 8 out of every 10 are male. You can see that approximately 2/3 identify as Hispanic, and there are a lot of young students. So almost 2/3 are 29 or younger, but there are students all across the age spectrum at our colleges. Next slide. And I know that this is a lot to take in, but these are the awards issued. So certificates and degrees from specific programs in this sector, and then the 3-year average from those. So you can see the program issuing the most awards there is architecture and architectural technology, with welding and our HVAC programs, electrical programs, and on down the line. In the middle, you'll see the construction management technology. That is a smaller program, but there are new programs starting in that area here at my host college at Mount Sac. Yeah, you can see the list. Again, this is in the lookbook, so if there's any of these that are of specific interest, we can locate the colleges that offer them. Next. And then these next 4 slides, we're going to look at student employment outcomes. The data, disclaimer, it's a little bit dated from the dashboard as it is in the process of being updated, but you can see the ECU, the energy, construction, utilities, student employment outcomes in blue, and then those across all career education programs in red. So this first metric is self-reported data from our students when they exit programs. They're asked, are you working in a job that's closely related to what you studied? And as you can see, students in our ECU programs consistently report working in their field, which is great. That means they're using their education in the labor market at a higher rate than those across all programs. Next. And the median change in earnings. So this compares what students were making prior to starting the program with what they're making after. Again, ECU programs are in blue, the average across all programs in red. And you can see that students that come into and complete our construction programs are increasing their wage. The most recent data at 28% increase, with the highest being 37% a few years ago. Next. And the median annual earnings after exiting. So how much money are students making leaving these programs? You can see that our ECU program completers are consistently earning more than those across all programs, with the most recent data from a few years ago, just under $44,000 per year. So doing quite well. And this is when they're, you know, just leaving the program and getting started in the labor force. Next. And then the portion of students who earn a living wage in the county. So ideally, we want this to be 100%, but that is not the case. However, you can see students leaving our ECU programs are attaining a living wage at a higher rate than those across all programs, with just over half of students earning a living wage. So that is the data about our programs. The next several slides, Alicia, if you want to go to them, are some of the target occupations that our programs provide training for, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I know we want to get into our conversation. But this is a more exhaustive list than what we had before. And the next several slides, and this is also in the lookbook, go through job postings for those occupations. So I'm actually going to stop there, and I'll turn it back to you, Alicia, so that we can get the conversation started. Thank you. And if anybody has questions about any of the data presented, please feel free to email me or call, or just ask right now as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luke. So this portion will be the roundtable discussion. We just wanted to have some housekeeping rules to really please mute yourself throughout the discussion, but feel free to submit questions throughout the chat box. And we will leave the last 15 to 20 minutes for discussion per topic, as well as just engaging in questions afterwards. So our first industry representation is Praful, who is the Director of Integrated Services for Canyon Design. Praful has dedicated his career to sparking change within the AEC industry and is a tireless advocate for progressive design, build, and its ability to foster heightened levels of collaboration across owners, designers, as well as builders. Next, we also have Veronica, who is the Senior Advisor for Workforce Development and Economic Impact for Los Angeles World Airports for the $30 billion Capital Improvement Program. Veronica possesses over 25 years of experience developing public agency and economic inclusion and agency and economic and workforce development programs that promote diversity and economic inclusion based on high standards of equity, open competition, and transparency on capital programs with a combined value of $60 billion. Here we also have Joss, who is the Director of Community Affairs for Clark Construction Group. As a Director of Community Affairs covering Southern California, Joss ensures that Clark Construction maximizes its opportunities to really partner with small and diverse businesses, entities for each project, and in addition to supporting workforce development programs throughout the region. So due to unforeseen circumstances, Michael and Daryl won't be able to make it to today's advisory, but we have really regularly engaged with them throughout the entire process as well. Michael is the president and CEO of Anderson Barker Architects. He is a distinguished architect, author, and visionary that leads the Accelerated Housing and Transit Development Program. Daryl is the Senior Director for Pre-Construction at Skanska. As a pre-construction professional, he has more than 2 decades of experience in the construction industry in California and Colorado in both developing and general contractor roles. So now we're going to leave it up for the roundtable discussion.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Alicia. If you can kind of click out so we're able to see all the panelists. First and foremost, again, I want to echo a big thank you to the panelists for taking the time to provide their expertise and feedback. As Alicia mentioned, to attendees, we will allocate 15 minutes towards the end to please engage with our panelists directly. So if there are any questions in the meantime, please put them in the chat and we'll make sure to get back to them. With that being said, I'm very excited to jump into the conversation. Matthew and Luke presented great data. For me, one of the most eye-opening data was that through 2016 in 2020 through 2022, heavy and civil engineering construction grew by over 50%, and it's continued to grow until 2028 by 9%. So the importance of this advisory is instrumental for the community colleges to better prepare the workforce. As Luke mentioned, There's 15 under 19 that offer heavy and civil engineer, but all 19 community colleges offer some sort of program. So very excited to hear the panelists input on some of this question. And let's just get started. So we'd like to pose the first questions to all the panelists, but we'd love for Praful to be the first one to kind of touch base on the first question, which is, what do community colleges need to know about the current state and emerging trends of the construction industry? So Praful?
Well, I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Thanks for inviting and appreciate this forum. And workforce development is obviously a very important aspect of our industry. And AEC, architecture, engineering, construction, is a vital line for economic development. So as a practitioner, both on the design and construction side over the years, a few decades, I've had the occasion to kind of look at the industry in the larger scheme of things. And then through LAEDC, when I was the chair in 2017, I believe, this is a very important aspect of our regional economy. Couple of just kind of observations, and I'll start with a major trend in the industry that is moving away from design, bid, build delivery, where you design the drawings, design projects, issue the drawings, get bids, and the low bid in public works wins. It is a contentious model of delivery, and there are better models of delivery that are being practiced. And the industry in general, the AEC industry in general, is moving towards these integrated practices. And that's my area of responsibility at Canon Design. Canon Design is about a 1,400-person firm, national. We primarily design and we do strategic planning. And our markets are healthcare, education, science and technology, which is biosciences, and public agency projects. So I don't want to take too much of the preamble, but I think our education system needs to react to how we are training our young people to these different ways of collaboration. Because part of the problem we've had in the industry is the productivity in our industry is low. And that largely occurs because of the tensions that are between owners sign contracts with designers, they sign a separate contract with the contractor in the design bid build delivery, and then whoever is the low bid, either by design or by mistake, and then there's a change order fight, and that creates escalations both in schedules as well as cost. And by going to the integrated models of delivery and by training our people in that area, we will start to make better progress. And I can elaborate more on this as our discussions move forward.
Thank you so much, Praful. So what I hear you saying is that community colleges need to integrate integrated model practices to better prepare the community college workforce. So thank you for that. We'd love to hear maybe 2 minutes from Veronica and then Josh. So Veronica, your feedback and input on what do community colleges need to know about the current state and emerging trends of the construction industry?
First of all, good morning to everybody. I would say that what the data that they see in this study is underreporting the actual opportunities available. When you look at the postings of jobs, that is completely undercounted. And I'll say that because almost all the public work in Los Angeles are covered by project labor agreements. And those positions are not posted for anybody in the private marketplace. Those positions are for members of all the signatory unions. And so that is to say there's greater opportunity for the students of all the community colleges. It is a tremendous industry. And it should not just be focused on the fact of we need craft workers. No, the community college can be a partner with the owners and with industry to cultivate people at different levels of this pathway. Let me give you an example. I don't know if Southwest College is here, but Southwest College is the Los Angeles World Airport's partner for Hire LEX, Apprenticeship Readiness Training Program. We are cultivating a local workforce, creating access to community people to be able to learn the basic fundamentals through a curriculum created by the National Building Trades that is acknowledged throughout the country. This is the entry point into union apprenticeship for them to be able to then become journeymen or journey persons, right? But that is not the end. A person in the trades can only wear their belt for 15 years at the most. So now the role of the community colleges is expanded. Southwest College did the training for construction. They can also, or another college can then do the construction management curriculum that focuses in on public works, because public works is very different than private development work. And so when you have those skills and you build those skills, but most importantly, create a continuum of care, support, workforce, education, and training for people that can benefit from the community college system, that is the true success. And I think there needs to be a greater alignment between those multiple pathways. Because again, at the Los Angeles World Airports, we have a $30 billion capital building program. Not only do we need craft workers, we need designers like Praful. We need engineers who are designing taxiways and runways. We need individuals that do document control. We need individuals that do cost controls. Again, this industry is vibrant, extremely vibrant. And so we need the colleges to partner with us, again, at every interval. And I'm not talking just about that craft worker. I'm also talking about youth. Let's go ahead and use our dual enrollment program to focus young people on quality career jobs, not poverty jobs, but quality career jobs that provide good wages, benefits, and a pension that allow families in Los Angeles to prosper and to be able to create community wealth and also live up to that standard that Mayor Karen Bass has put out there for us of equity. And that's how I'll respond to that question, Jose.
Veronica, thank you so much. I appreciate your expertise, feedback, and noting that, this is more than what we're looking for as it's growing even more than the data represents. So appreciate that. And I think all the community colleges here, along with Dr. McKeegan, love the fact that you're opening up the opportunity to collaborate with all 19 community colleges. So thank you so much. Joss, I'll allow for any remarks on your end.
Appreciate that, Jose, and good morning, everybody. First, Jose, don't make me go after Veronica and Praful anymore for I guess the remainder of our time. So both made very good points. Praful's point was that the industry is changing, delivery models are changing, and the way that we educate the future careers should be changing as well. And Veronica brought up the point we need to be talking to clients. We need to be understanding those in the industry that actually have the opportunity to create these jobs and figure out what their needs are. So what I would add to that is we should continue the conversation beyond today. This is a great forum, but there should be a structure in place that allows the industry, both public and private, to provide feedback to the community colleges, because that's where the labor exists. The point that Veronica made about craft workers and getting folks into the union apprenticeship programs, that's a terrific insight, as well as creating a continuum. Just to give you some perspective here, for somebody or for an entity like Clark Construction or our heavy civil arm, which would be Atkinson Construction or Clark Civil, we actually don't self-perform the majority of that work. And so as a general contractor, we're looking for our partners within the industry that represent different scopes of work, different trades, and we're looking for their labor to be able to produce. But in that, what we need internally are folks that are experienced with those different trades, with those different scopes of work that can also manage process, time, schedule, cost, those sorts of things. And so it's really imperative, one, that construction accounting, construction scheduling, construction workforce development, all those sorts of, I don't want to call them ancillary, but the auxiliary things around building a building need to be part of the curriculum education. But I would also add that it's important to help people understand that construction as an industry is much larger than, hard hats and safety vests and big boots in the field. Prof certainly doesn't look like, his boots might be cleaner than my boots, and my boots are pretty clean. So we need folks to understand that if you want to work in the field and you want to work with your hands and you want to do a labor-intensive role, there's an opportunity for you. If you want to do accounting, there is an opportunity for you. If you want to do marketing, there is an opportunity for you. And I think we have to make sure that that communication is getting through to students, because oftentimes I speak to people, one, that don't think I work in construction, and two, don't understand the breadth of opportunity in the industry. And there's a lot of opportunity.
Josh, great points. I think one key aspect of it, and you kind of segue with Veronica, is making sure we address our dual enrollment and bringing career awareness at a younger age, and making sure that we understand that there's more opportunities out there that pay sustainable wages. And I also like the point of the auxiliary and implementing that in the curriculum. So appreciate your feedback, and per your request, I actually go with you first on the next question, since you have extensive work in workforce development. So I'd like to begin with you and then segue to Veronica. So first question is, what are your most important workforce needs and challenges at the moment?
So internally, we just need more project managers. And for us, what that means is somebody that can manage a specific scope of work in the field on a project. So let's keep it simple. I saw electrical as one of the trades that's more awarded in terms of an education system. But we need people that can come in, they don't have to know how to read drawings and read blueprints. That's something that they can be trained on. And I think every GC in the region will do that training. But they have to have a base level of knowledge so that it's not 100% foreign to them when they come in. But if they can look at a specific trade, understand what the outcome should be, understand the expectation, are comfortable enough from a soft skills perspective, and are comfortable enough from a substantive perspective to make that communication to a trade partner to say, hey, actually, I see that you're doing it this way, it should be done that way. Those sorts of things are most important to us. The benefit of being at a place like Clark Construction is that we are not a publicly traded company. And that's not to disparage any general contractor that is. But the value that we find in that is that we are not beholden, so to speak, to a share price. And so we get to pursue the work that we want to pursue. We get to pursue the work that is going to help our people grow, help our business grow, maintain our reputation, and be able to deliver high quality products and buildings, roads, bridges throughout the region. But in that, we find ourselves looking at opportunities and asking the internal question of, do we have enough folks to divert from one potential project to another? And so it's, to Veronica's point, it's a really large need. I think those numbers are underreported, because of the labor aspect of it, but also I think it's always hard to count, what are the true needs, right? Because we've got 20 projects running at any given time, but if we weren't concerned about labor, that could possibly be 40. It's just so hard to quantify. But those are the needs that we have, and we've got some training programs we're looking to develop. But again, would love to connect with some folks, in a different setting, possibly in person at another time. But yeah, I think that's it. And thank you for calling on me first. Now I don't have to follow the legends.
No, great points, Josh. And just for the panelists, future knowledge, we'll have some action items following the event. So we'll follow up. Jared would be following and touch base how we can connect you with the connecting community colleges. But with that being said, Veronica, the floor is yours.
Well, our needs are vast. A $30 billion capital building program is nothing besides what Metro is doing. But Metro is doing it throughout LA County. We're doing it within the footprint of LAX as well as Van Nuys Airport. Very small amount of work in Van Nuys, but just imagine almost $30 billion invested just at LAX is an extraordinary amount of work. While we're operating an airport 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're building extraordinary infrastructure. Not only are we building new infrastructure, we're building this train, which you see in my background. That's the automated people mover project. That and the other ancillary LAMP projects, which is the consolidated rental car facility, as well as the parking facility and so on. All of that was about $5.5 billion. And when we look at the number of workers, and I'm talking about craft workers, that alone was almost 8,000 workers that are local, 24,000 workers throughout the region. That's extensive. That is extraordinary. But what does it mean for our local economy? And the reason I'm talking about the local economy is because these workers, these local workers, are people who live in Los Angeles. These are people who are going to take their wages and support local business. These are people who are going to pay taxes, local taxes, and those taxes are going to be recycled into our schools to pay for the bonds at the community colleges, to be able to go ahead and pay for rec and parks, the police and fire, and so on. And so for us, it's not just about building this infrastructure to support, the passenger capacity that we anticipate, as well as the cargo capacity. Okay, we're not just moving people, we're moving cargo, international cargo, domestic cargo. And so we have to build an airport in order to be able to do that. And so we need people that do all of that. And so we as an airport are not in the business of hiring people to do this work specifically. We depend on the industry. We depend on Clark Construction to help us build projects. We depend on, Canon Design to go ahead and help us design some of that work. And so this is very broad. Let me just kind of put this into perspective. Within the last 2.5 months, LAWA went ahead and awarded $100 million contract for design services. This is both for architecture and engineering alone. We also, a couple of weeks ago, awarded a $950 million contract for program management services. So all those ancillary positions that project managers, construction managers, cost controls, project controls, and so on, all of those people that are required to be able to execute a $30 billion program are going to be partially paid out of that $950 million contract. And so that is how much our need is. But we are doing it in a way that is intentional, because all of our contracts require small businesses, local businesses, diverse businesses to be a part of that formula of success. And so again, cultivating the workforce, those young people to one day be that entrepreneur that help us continue to do our work. And that's the way we need to look at this. This is not a picture in time. This is a longitudinal impact. This is about making sure that we're intentional for youth, we're intentional for people in the community, that we're intentional with growing businesses, micro businesses, and that we are partnering with industry leaders such as Clark and Canon Design, who are really the primes that really are leading this industry, and we are partnering with them to execute our building program. So I think, again, I cannot reinforce enough what our needs are, but we need everyone to help us meet that need. And by doing so, we are going to build a better LA and a better LAX and better Van Nuys Airport.
Veronica, once again, great points. I love the data that you kind of implemented there. I think it's eye-opening. And I love your approach of how we can work together and address all the needs within the LA region. So appreciate that. Prof will allow for any remarks, and then I'll go to Gary, who presented a question on the chat.
So a lot of good thoughts that are coming out here. Veronica, very eloquent, thank you. Joss and I represent people who are companies that get the jobs done. So what you have here among the three of us, the owner, obviously, owner is driving the projects. They have a need to do capital programs. And then there are designers needed, and then there are constructors needed. And that's how the Troika delivers projects. So I wanted to just share that we've been fortunate in being part of three major projects at LAX that includes the $1.6 billion program at the Midfield Satellite Facility. We call it MSC. The terminal course, the one portion that we did was the 5.5. And the T4 connector that connected the Terminal 4, American Terminal, to Radley. And currently we are designing the replacement for Burbank Terminal. So quite familiar with the needs of owners, public owners. And I want to go back to a couple of points. I mean, besides the amalgamation of architecture and engineering, the construction amalgamation is very important to this industry. As I said, as we are passing new legislation, we passed a new legislation in the state of California, SB 706. It became effective first of the year on progressive design build, which is actually a more collaborative and informed form of delivery that unanimously passed both the Assembly as well as the Senate in the State House. And it became effective, and now public agencies can use that. So what that does is it actually creates needs for well-rounded professionals on the design, that's architecture and engineering side. And I want to make one more point about community colleges. I mean, I have several friends who transfer from community colleges to engineering colleges and architectural colleges. And having that education and knowledge, or giving that knowledge to the students of what their future options are on the design engineering side is very important, so that they know what career choices they can make. And as you'll know, the professional salaries tend to be higher than the craft salaries. And so you are actually, and there is a huge need in our profession to have designers and construction managers, and that's the point that Joss was making. I currently serve on the Construction Management Association of America nationally, and we have actually created construction management accreditation that can start at the craft level all the way into construction management. And these people are absolutely critical to the success of any project, because they now fully understand where the project starts, what kind of inputs during the design that can be provided by the construction managers and their knowledge, and how it can get executed. And again, technology enters in a big way to make sure that we are managing these processes well. Veronica mentioned the $950 million program management contract. And that's actually the entire program, right? And then there are individual projects within that program. And construction managers actually manage these individual programs. So there is another large need, and it's a more of a professional service, but it can also be utilized on the construction industry side, as well as the design management side of design build delivery. So I know we're throwing a lot of jargon out here in the construction and design industry, but these are important things that community colleges and the professors and the teachers impart to our students.
Praful, thank you so much. Those are great points. I know Gary, who's representing Mount SAC, has a few questions that might align with some of the questions that we're asking. So as mentioned earlier, we'll allocate sometimes towards the end to allow for the attendees to unmute themselves. With that being said, I'd like to move to the next question, and I'd like to start with Praful first, and engage there with the question being, what challenges do you face in upskilling your current workforce? Do you see any opportunities for professional development or ongoing education with your current employees?
Yes, so we have, I mean, we are a mature firm. I would like to say we are a highly specialized firm in complex projects, the 4 sectors that I mentioned. Our challenges are finding interns who can start early and start to get familiar with, like, let's talk about healthcare. You know, designing hospitals is a major undertaking, and we are doing a $5+ billion project for the Mayo Clinic. We're redoing that entire campus in Rochester, Minnesota. This includes engineering systems, mechanical, electrical, gas, certainly structural. The regulatory requirements of designing a hospital are complex. So what that means is we got to start these interns early. We want to get students into our offices and start to actually understand what it is going to take for them to learn, not just within the colleges, but from the industry standpoint and where that could go. So professional development is a very large part of what we do. And even within our professions, much like what Josh was saying, there is marketing that we need in terms of getting our name out and saying what kind of complex projects that we can do. We need project managers. We need people who are technical, who can actually do the work, right? And it's all on computers now. Nobody draws on drafting tables anymore. And that is a passé, it's like an antique now. And then you have a real need to help during construction with shop drawings to make sure that everything gets done right. And then the regulatory environments really make projects more intense. And so we need all these different aspects of professional development. So I don't know if I answered the question in total, but that's the general realm, and I'm certainly available even beyond this discussion to help in that space.
Thank you so much, Praful. I'll segue to Veronica, and I'll present the question again. Veronica, what challenges do you face in upscaling your current workforce? And also question 2 or part 2 is, are there any opportunities for professional development or ongoing education for your current employees?
Great question. Obviously, for the Los Angeles World Airports, which is a city department, one of the things that is extremely important to the development group, which is the department or division that's responsible for the execution of the $30 billion capital program, is that we're always training our team. We have 2 trainings a month. We have a mentor program that has been incorporated in order to ensure that we are building the skills of LAWA employees so they can continue on, as well as those that are coming to us through the contracts, the program management contracts, who are complementary to the entire team. They're also going through that training. This training is sometimes unique to LAWA. You know, how do we go ahead and do prompt payment? How do you work on the air side of the airport? What are the requirements to do that? How do we go ahead and process change orders more quickly so that we can move money to the contractor? How do we go ahead and do public speaking so that we can report into the community, so that we can report to our board in a professional manner? As you can see, the type of training is both technical and non-technical. Soft skills. Soft skills are extremely important too. And so those are the things that we're doing internally, as well as sending staff to conferences. You know, they can go to CMAA and get the certification. You know, because again, that's an investment. If they, you know, get certified, then obviously they can say, hey, you know, I went through the training at DBIA. I went and got training at CMAA. I went and got training, you know, at Cal State Dominguez Hills for safety, whatever it is. All of those elements of continuous professional development help our team grow and help us deliver our projects more efficiently, more effectively. But most importantly, I think that when you do that, there's greater efficiencies because people know more and they can do more. And they strive to do more because now they have the skills to do more. And so you create a sense of loyalty and excitement regarding the building program and what it really means. So I would say that those are the things that we're investing in. But we have also put that in place in our contracts because we want all the private corporations that are helping us design and build our projects, that they also understand our commitment to continuous professional development. Everyone that's doing work for us needs to do STEM engagement in K through 12 schools, Title I schools specifically. There's over 800 Title I schools in the city of Los Angeles, as well as in the surrounding cities around the airport. That's an extraordinary amount of schools of need. And so we want to make sure that we are creating awareness of all these great careers in this industry so they can pursue them. We're also making sure that all of the firms, whether they're doing construction, whether they're doing design work, whether they're doing construction management, that they also develop an internship program. Like Praful said, we need interns. We bring in interns in order to cultivate them so that they understand the culture of our organization, so they understand the standards of our organization, but also how to go ahead and develop the technical skills required for them to be effective assets to the company. And so these are things that we are doing in order to ensure that workforce development is an intentional, element of how we're delivering this building program. Because if we don't do this, we are not going to have the skilled workers. And I'm not just talking about craft workers. I'm talking everyone down, the entire plethora of this industry. We're not going to have enough of those people. And the last thing we want to do, and I'm just going to say it, is import people from outside of Los Angeles. I always say Los Angeles because I think it should all be local. But I know it's Southern California. We don't need to bring in other people from outside of this region if we are partnering effectively with the community colleges, with our local universities, and creating a pathway for young people to be a part of this vibrant industry. So again, we are doing it, and we're also partnering with industry to do it as well.
No, thank you, Veronica. I see, based on your comments, a lot of potential opportunities to collaborate with the community colleges to offer further opportunities to upscale or create some sort of training. So thank you for that. And I agree with your comments of making sure we keep our workforce here in LA, as we saw, for those of you who attended our economic forecast yesterday, that we're seeing a decline in population. So that's crucial. I want to segue to Josh, maybe a quick minute, in essence of time. Any comments on this specific question, Josh?
In the essence of time, I would just offer that it's a really good way to continue your education to teach. And so if there's any way that, or any opportunity for a Clark Construction or an Atkinson Construction employee to come help lead a class at any of the community colleges, that's always a way that will allow them to sharpen their skills. And so just let's keep that on the table. But in the essence of the time, I'll leave it there.
No, that's great. I think that's a need that the colleges have brought up in the past in different industries. So I'm sure that's something that would be discussed when we allocate the time for the attendees to have further discussion. I'd like to start with Veronica on the next question, and it's a very interesting question. So maybe if you can summarize it within 1-2 minutes. Veronica, how will technology, example automation, AI, affect the current workforce and employee skills requirements?
I can tell you that in order for us to carry out our work, we need everyone to have strong technical skills and to use the technical tools of the software We went ahead and trained all of our team on using Bluebeam, okay? We're doing PMIS, Program Management Information Systems, to be able to manage our projects, manage our monies, and so on. AI, I can tell you that people are already using it. Hopefully they're not using it to design our projects, but they're definitely using it for other opportunities where it's like sometimes we only know so much, but now the ability to do AI and to put out a question out there and get a response with maybe a couple of elements that we did not consider. It's very powerful. But again, it's important for people to have the basic fundamental technical skills, the fundamental knowledge to be able to utilize AI efficiently, effectively, and safely.
Thank you so much, emphasizing those technology skills. Josh, I'll segue to you for any remarks.
Yeah, the construction industry in particular is looking at new technology and different forms of artificial intelligence to supplement the workforce. And so there are a lot of things that are in play for us that are similar to Veronica. We need people to be skilled up. We need people to understand it. If for no other reason, just from a time saving opportunity. You don't have to create templates and forms and those sorts of things from scratch anymore. But also to Veronica's point, you have to have a good base understanding so that when you're getting some of that feedback back from whatever generation tool you're using, that it's not 100% certain, it's not 100% accurate. A lot of the time it needs to be vetted, but it does provide a different perspective and an opportunity to look at some new ideas. One thing that I will say is that we are always looking at how we can make our work more efficient internally and how we can always serve our clients better. And a couple examples that I will give you for that is, we're looking at different robots that can do floor plate markings for construction projects so that we can sort of map out or enter in the software when we leave for the day. That does it overnight, and now we understand when we come back what the floor plate is in the morning. So that's a use for us, and that again was driven by the fact that the human need and the people need wasn't being met. So there was an opportunity there. We also do a lot of drone coverage of existing sites as they're coming out of the ground. And so one way that we're able to do that is, again, we can enter in some of the information necessary, and then the drones will fly, cover the project site, particularly if it's a large project site. And now we don't have somebody that's out there walking around denoting these sorts of things. But again, you've got to have a good foundational knowledge so that you actually know how to decipher what any of that output is when it comes to robotics and artificial intelligence and things like that. And to go one step further, clients are becoming more sophisticated. And particularly for us, our clients, are far ranging. And so thinking about a client like Lawin, we are not participating in sort of their wayfinding Maytop, but I would imagine whoever is participating in that has to understand the user experience and how that user experience is going to be driven through various technology so that it actually makes the user experience better and makes the client experience simpler when you're explaining that project.
No, I appreciate your expertise and how you're currently Clark Construction is clearly utilizing technology. I think those are great components that the community colleges need to be made aware of. So thank you for that. Prof, I'll allow maybe 1 minute to kind of summarize any of your remarks.
Well, it's dictum as the technologies develop that you start to elevate your level of expertise to a higher level where the automation takes place of the routine tasks. So, and AI is not going to be any exception. I wanted to bring up in particular for the community college workforce development and education side. I was also the chair of DBIA National. And so we pushed very hard for getting the subtrades engaged. And now a lot of the design build and progressive design build projects are being done by subtrades doing what we call design build. That means rather than having separate engineering drawings, the engineering is being incorporated as part of that subtrade engineering. So that mechanical engineering is designing mechanical solutions with the constructor. And then companies like Clark are basically managing the overall project. But mechanical trade, electrical trade, a lot of these assembly type of situations where the architects don't need to actually design the detail. The industry can do that with their own designers. So there are several facets of what technology is going to be able to let us do and make us more productive.
No, thank you for your comments. I think it's clear that AI and technology overall is here in this specific industry, and thank you for your expertise and your comments on how it's being utilized. Roberto from Citrus College in Glendora, I see your questions, and I promise we'll get to it, but I want to allow Jared Lopez to kind of segue into the next topic and questions. So, Jared, the floor is yours.
Cool. Thank you, Jose. So yeah, as we start thinking about, community colleges and how to build these relationships, how to build out these curriculums and how community colleges can be best useful to employers, I really want to talk about now, putting yourself in the shoes of a faculty or a dean building out a curriculum for construction. What would that ideal curriculum look like for you? And I'd like to start with Joss, because I know you mentioned earlier, having people come in, they don't necessarily need to have all the technical skills that they might learn on the job, but there's certain skills that you would want them to have, certain knowledge you would want them to have. So, role playing, you're a faculty member designing the perfect construction curriculum. What's on that curriculum? What programs are involved? Internships? You could add anything you want in there, but what does that look like for you?
So, I will admittedly say I didn't get, of course we see questions in advance, but this is something of particular interest to me. So I have thought about this, and I would never start from scratch. Academic institutions have been around long enough. There's a curriculum out there that is good and it works. So I would start there. What I would do is I would look at all of the engineering driven curriculums throughout the community colleges and sort of right size them to where they're all saying the same thing. And after I got that master document, then I would bring in industry to fill the gaps. And where we're not going to need to teach sort of the fundamentals of mechanical engineering, we may need to teach takeoffs. We may need to teach or have a class on getting people trained on Bluebeam, because now that's industry standard. What we realized internally when we created our strategic partnership program that trains small businesses in the AEC industry to be able to work with us is that, and we have a really deep curriculum. It teaches Bluebeam, it teaches estimating, it teaches cost controls, accounting. Eventually, the small businesses have to do a capstone when they put this all together and respond to an RFP. But after doing this for a few years, we realized that these businesses were really good at doing the work. Where they needed more support was how to market themselves, how to present in a meeting, and how to drive business development. So we started supplementing a public presentations class, a marketing class, a business development class. So that's how I would approach it. I would look at what exists. I would right size it with industry. I would supplement it with some of the things that industry thinks are missing from that. And then the final piece is I would actually layer on an experiential component for completion. And so I would make sort of a work study component required to graduate. This exists in a lot of other industries, generally in licensed professions, I will say, where you have to have on-job training before you can actually graduate with that degree. But I would think it's an opportunity for industry one to say, hey, these are some of the gaps that need to be filled. And now that you've filled them, we'll bring on some folks. And so you solve an internship issue, a pipeline issue, a training issue, and hopefully folks graduate with some experience and the ability to matriculate straight to employment.
That's great. Thank you for that. You've clearly thought about it a lot. Praful,
no
I'm
need
curious.
to answer, Praful and Veronica.
Praful, I'm curious, so as someone who, thinks a lot about innovation in the industry, about different ways to deliver services, what would you add to that? And how would you prepare students kind of for future-proofing their career? There's a lot of things that are changing. What kinds of pieces of curriculum or skills, knowledge would you impart to students to make sure that they don't only aren't able just to enter the field, but to also build a sustainable career down the line?
Yeah. This is being kind of much like Joss. I graduated from Illinois Tech with a master's degree in architecture, and there is a tendency in universities to kind of follow the same patterns, and there are silos. So there is the architectural department, then there is the mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, with mechanical and plumbing typically goes together, structural engineering, civil engineering. But there was nothing tying these engineering courses together, because it takes all these engineering programs to actually deliver a project. So going back to, and we have a very important audience here in this program, the deans. And that's the level that we need to think about what the curricula or in Americana curriculums are. We have to make sure that these curriculums are set up in a way that encompass the entire delivery model from design through construction, and then let the students have the choice to go where it needs to go, so that they have a complete understanding of what the possibilities are. Because there are a lot of complexities, and actually, when you look at it, as the automation is taking place, it's a higher and higher level of expertise that you develop as you go along. So we want to train them at a much higher space. At the same time, provide ladders where they can graduate to wherever they want to graduate. Obviously, it all depends on, time and educational costs and so on and so forth. But I think curriculum is the piece. That's where you need to really start and get industry input of what it is going to take to make a complete professional out of, and we all need language, skills, I always say all-rounded kind of professionals, so that they have an idea what they're looking at and not just that little piece that they want to do.
Definitely. Thank you for that. That's extremely helpful. I'd love to hear a little bit from Veronica. I know, you've led a lot of programs that do this, that build equitable pipelines, that help with workforce development, hire LAX, ACES engineering program. Drawing from that experience, I'd love to hear a little bit about, what kind of curriculum you would develop ideally for a community college student. And if you could also touch on possibly some of the things that have worked really well for your programs, and things that maybe, could have been better, that maybe community college deans and faculty can heed as they're thinking about how to best serve their students.
Well, first, I'm going to start with youth, because again, is where my heart is. And I really do think that that's where we begin cultivating our workforce. The ACES program, we took advantage of the curriculum that already existed. We went ahead and worked first with LA Tech, and then with East LA College. East LA College made it easier for high school students to participate in the dual enrollment program. They were able to provide instructors on site, which then allowed students to go to school during the calendar day and then take their college courses in the afternoon or do it during the summer. And that model has really worked great with East LA College. So if they're on right now, thank you again for the level of support that you've given ACES probably for the last 5 or 6 years. We took their stackable certificates that focused on elements that were important to this industry, the engineering design principles, the programming, because again, the technology, and then also renewable energy. Everything we're doing is sustainable. So the students were able to learn the fundamentals and some of the technical skills that were required. And all of these classes, which was my priority, that they'd be transferable to the Cal State system and the UC system. Again, eliminating barriers to higher education and allow them to capitalize while they're in high school and taking these courses. That program, aside from having the curriculum with the community college, we incorporated a paid internship to bring it to life. How do we go ahead and reinforce the enthusiasm, the excitement about these careers? And then you do that by earning money doing it. And so the internship was key to that. And so we partnered, with all of industry to go ahead and provide internships to these high school students. And they were really surprised by the competency of these young people. Again, kids that reflect the diversity of Los Angeles and in our Title I schools. And then the other thing that is extremely important is the wraparound services. It cannot be the community college on its own, addressing some of the challenges that our young people face. And they don't face it because they created those issues. It's because of where they live. It is about their circumstances. It is about their family, and to a certain degree, the community. And so we partnered with the WorkSource centers, the American Job Centers out of the city and the county, to be able to provide for that paid internship, to be able to provide proper clothing for them to have their internship, to be able to provide transportation, access to their internship. This is an integrated model, and we need to continue to do that. We started it with our young people because we believe that that's where you should start, but it's continued on. Now, currently with Hire LAX, again, great partnership with Trade Tech and now Southwest College in providing the MC3 training. But we know that it's not enough. We know that these people that are craft workers, you can only wear the belt for so long. And so what we wanted to do is to take them to that next level. And so we're working right now with the community college to create a curriculum for a degree in construction management, but one that is unique to public work. For example, we're utilizing the existing accounting. And the reason we're doing this is because these are craft workers. They never took accounting. They never took business law. And so, but what they do know is their craft. And so we wanted to make sure that we utilize the resources of the community college to be able to provide them the skills in accounting, business law, business writing, communications, BIM, which is Revit, to be able to utilize those things that already exist in a community college, and then partner with industry and through LAWA's resources to be able to teach them the project management skills, public contracting. What does that look like? What is a public contract? What is the differentiation between a private and a public contract? Labor compliance, which is unique to public work, project labor agreements, which basically covers every single project in Los Angeles. And then again, the technology, the Bluebeam, the scheduling, and even the blueprint reading, elevating that through BIM, making it all come to life. And so that is what we're already doing with the community college. For us, we would not be able to do what we're doing without really with the community colleges. Everything from our youth, from our disadvantaged workers, disadvantaged community members. It's been an extraordinary partnership, and we look forward to doing other things. This is just the beginning from our standpoint.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the point that, yeah, it does take all of us. We can't do any of this alone. And so I'm really glad that we're having this conversation. I think we have the right people in the room for this. I want to make sure that we have time for deans and faculty to ask questions. So I'm going to just end here with a speed round question. I want you to try to answer this as quickly as possible. And you've all touched on it to varying degrees, but would love to just hear a very kind of concise articulation of like what an ideal community college partnership would look like for you. And that could be along the lines of programs. It could be, regularity of touch points. I know we talked about having some kind of forum where, you can regularly give input on curriculum, but would just love to hear at a high level what that ideal partnership going forward would look like for all of you. And I'll start with you, Joss.
A pipeline of interns and a standing opportunity, or not necessarily a standing, but a structured opportunity for us to come in and help lead different subject matter in different classes.
Perfect. Veronica, let's go to you.
I would say that leadership buy-in, the campus president, having them know exactly what initiative is being developed, and then also being able to, you know, follow up and say, how's everything going with my college? Is my team, you know, doing everything to help our young people, or the community? I think that would go a long way, which is something that we've had. And then flexibility. Again, you know, they need to be able to be flexible. The private sector is entrepreneurial. The public sector is always rigid. And so in order for the community college to serve industry, it needs to be flexible. And so I just think that those two combinations is to have the leadership buy-in and continuous touch points, and then the flexibility to change because the markets do change.
Perfect. Thank you. Praful, we'll end with you.
Well, good words have been spoken in terms of articulation. The only thing I would like to add is the curriculum development. And it should be a regularized periodic process. So it doesn't get stale because the industry is moving too fast. So we need that input on an ongoing basis of seeing where the needs are and how we can develop the knowledge base.
Great, thank you. So I want to open up the floor to questions. I know we had some in the chat earlier. So when I call on you, if you could just unmute yourself, feel free to ask your question. We'd love to have as much engagement and dialogue as possible. So let's start with Gary Gidcombe. I know you had some questions in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask our panelists.
Excuse me there. I was listening, and it is during lunchtime, and I was enjoying a little bit of lunch. So sorry about that. So I put that question in the chat, and community colleges can focus on leadership skills, communication skills, construction management skills is what I'm focused on. We can teach fundamentals and basics. I've got 4 questions that followed up inside of there, like what skills are most valued by employers in the construction industry? How do we tailor our programs to meet these demands? And then the next 2 questions are, to me, important to answer. The first 2 and everything else is, how do we establish those strong connections with local construction management firms for job placement and intern opportunities? How can we create that framework that is going to be supporting our institutions, our community college institutions, be able to support the students? How can we create a collaborative, and can that be something that can grow out of this meeting, where we have resources from a community college level to tap into to create those pipelines for student employment?
Great. So just to re-articulate, so what skills are most valued by employers in construction? How can we tailor our programs to meet those demands? How can community colleges establish strong connections with local construction management firms for job placement and internship opportunities? And lastly, how can we create the framework that supports community colleges in construction management education? I'll just open up the floor. Whoever wants to answer, don't go all at once, but I'll let you take it, whoever wants to go.
Well, I can take the communications between community colleges and firms. And the best forum for that, in my opinion, would be on the architectural side, the local AIA chapter. Like LA chapter is a very strong chapter, and you meet all the firms there. You're going to have, there's a CMAA chapter, Construction Management Association of America. There is a DBIA chapter. So these would be the primary places where, and all these organizations have extensive student leadership programs. In fact, the DBIA holds a competition for design build projects. Actually, teams are given individual projects at the national conference, typically occurs in November. Teams actually come together as design builders and come up with solutions, and then they get awards. And there are several student scholarships that these organizations offer as well. But your presence there is going to be important at the local level.
I will add from the builder perspective, my view is that that the conversation should start one-on-one. And the reason for that is I always feel it's best to have a targeted conversation. And the more specific you can get with expectations and outcomes, the more specific you can plan. And I feel like that is a way where you can cultivate something. Eventually, I think you have to take it to the market and test it. But to begin, I think you can cultivate something with, one or two partners, figure out, does it work, pilot it, work out the kinks, and then sort of open it up. And so in going through those 4 questions that you asked, I think you start the conversation to figure out what are the needs, what are the interests. Is there an opportunity to partner with or marry existing funds to the community college via something like a American Job Centers? And when you do that, you might be able to create a model that can exist at scale for a builder or a GC to come in and say, hey, these are the needs that we look for. And this is how we can partner, and we'll bring on an intern from one of your institutions. And then as that internship period ends, then we'll have the opportunity to offer full-term employment. But I think you've got to start small to get big.
Veronica, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, well, first of all, I think the skills, obviously you're teaching them what the curriculum is intended to teach, and that's great. But if you can reinforce the soft skills, show up on time, quality work, not messy work, attention to detail. And also if you would be able to incorporate some project-based assignments so that they know what it is to deliver something as a team and present it to the class. I think that goes a long way in preparing their confidence and also their thought process about what it is to have a project and what are the different steps necessary in order to deliver the project. So I think that would be the skills that I would like to see. And then the other thing would be just to share that we are going to create a platform for internships, because we are making this a requirement of all firms to have an internship program. We will then collectively in our platform collect all the internship postings in our system. And then we would ask all the students to then upload their resumes, view the postings for internship positions, and then be able to make the appropriate matches. One of our contractors just hired 4 interns, and they're all college students, and not from big universities, from some of the community colleges. And that has been a real focal point for us. You are not going to overlook our community colleges. And so I would say those things, just be on the lookout for our platform. And then number 2, just that project-based learning, but within a team. Because again, it goes back to what Praful said, everything is now integrated, progressive design build. And it also allows for the thought process regarding gender equity. The fact that you're going to have women, young women as part of those teams, they get used to working with women when they're in the professional, workplace. So again, it's more than just having a team project. It's about cultivating a new culture.
I do want to add one more piece to this, and you brought up an excellent point there, Veronica. We are so male dominated in the AEC industry. On the design side is getting better, but still, so the technology piece can help there, because when you look at actual crafts work and, there is a general tendency for women not to go into those professions. But as we elevate the scale of what we need to get done, and we need higher technical and more sophisticated software type of work, I think that is our opportunity to train more women and bring them into the workforce and make it more equitable.
Veronica, just a quick follow-up. How would we track that platform? How would we discover that progress?
We will go ahead and share it with LARC, and they will in turn share it with all the community colleges.
Thank you.
Perfect.
'Cause again,
Thank you,
we're-
Gary.
We're looking at this as the beginning of a continuous dialogue between us and all of you. Because again, our needs are vast. And you have the assets, the human assets that we need to carry out our missions and our visions.
Great, thank you. I want to go to Roberto Loya. I know you had a question in the chat earlier. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask it now.
Thank you, everyone, especially the advisors here, the industry advisors, for being here. I think my question has been answered subsequent to me posting it. Community colleges, 2 years is when you think about the 2-year program, only 1 year is really devoted, generally speaking, to the skills, construction management skills, and community college certainly, in my view, having been on both sides of the fence, working with construction contractors as well as owners, a student we will not be generating construction managers. We will not be generating, cost estimators. But I think the intent and the urgency for me, from my past experience and with the advice of our local advisory board, is to give the students the foundational knowledge upon which they can assimilate successfully in a construction project and environment. Speaking generally, because the industry is very diverse. So I was hoping to hear that. That will hold true for the students. We're preparing them to assimilate it into the construction industry. They will not know what they want to do until they get in there and experience that environment. Whether they want to pursue being leaders, construction managers, or assistants, or estimators, construction inspectors, etc. Our mission is to provide them that foundational knowledge, along with certain credentials that they need to have, to assimilate in those environments. But I think I heard a common theme here: the skills, soft skills especially, and I guess my question remains, and I think that was Veronica just answered that as well. There's a few colleges in the region that are certainly open to benchmarking, open to partnerships, and that's really why I'm here. And I got great industry advisors, but Los Angeles World Airports, Clark, as a contractor, we got some big representatives, and I just want to invite the opportunity to benchmark, the opportunity to discuss further and understand, very specifically what your needs are, because we want to make sure that we incorporate the essence of those demands, in our program. And we have a construction management program that serves the broader constituents in the industry. What that means is our students will know the industry as a whole, okay, and then they can choose where they want to pursue, whether they want to work on either side of the major constituents. But we also have a narrowly focused program in public works. I just want to invite a continued further dialogue with anyone in this meeting, and certainly benchmark or learn from each other. So I just want to say thank you to the industry advisors very much, and we look forward to another opportunity, and hopefully to continue the discussion, even if it's separate. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Roberto, I do want to add one more piece here. You talk about a very valid point that there is only so much time in community colleges to actually have full-fledged construction managers. So if you look at the CMAA material, or if you go on their website, there is actually a 5-step ladder program from the lower levels, and then actually learning on the job and get the ultimate credential called CCM. So something in that space could be done as well.
Are full, and Mr. Loya, I think
I'm
it'd be
sorry, go
great to articulate the CCM program to have it become a college curriculum or accepted college curriculum, because then it would be available throughout California. It would create a standard, an institutional standard across the state. Obviously, it's CMIA is national, but we're talking about California here. But I really do think there is an opportunity for articulation.
Well, I have made a note of it. It's going to the executive director of CMAA this afternoon.
And Mr. Loya, what school are you with?
I'm with Citrus College, Veronica, and obviously from the background, I was a former Los Angeles Weather Report employee.
Yeah, I know. You're a legend here.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
People still talk about you.
You're too kind.
No, Gerardo Lopez and Tony Rios. Everyone still, calls out your name and says, Mr. Loya, if it wasn't for
Well,
Mr. Loya.
oh,
So
my
I'm
goodness.
glad that you're teaching young people to follow in your footsteps, because you definitely left extraordinary body of work at the airport. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. Very kind to offer those words, and thank you again for you said a lot of great things. My nerves were struck everywhere, so very great meeting here today. And I would love to follow up on the conversation with your permission. I would like to reach out to you later on. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And to just quickly comment on the CMA, our students are all targeting the CMIT credential, and they're targeting, we make sure they walk out with at least a 10-hour OSHA class. I would be interested with Bluebeam skills and all of that, but I would be interested in any other credentials in the future, another meeting that you can identify, because there's thousands of them, which ones are more relevant, more needed in the industry today. So that's probably a question for another time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roberto. Let's go to John. I see your hand raised, so feel free to unmute, John, and ask your question.
Yeah, I don't have a question per se. By the way, my name is John Cookta. I'm the department chair here in welding at Mount San Antonio College. I want to first say thank you all to our industry partners. We partner pretty tightly with all the local unions, iron workers, IBEW, Boilermakers, so on and so forth, to place our students. I think one area where industry could help us out, and Veronica, you actually brought this up right at the beginning of the presentation, was in the disconnect between the data that the state has and the actual situation, the conditions on the ground. One big area that I deal with on a almost daily basis from a faculty and program standpoint is funding. One of the big sources of funding that we use to replace machines and build up new technology and increase capabilities in our shop is strong workforce. And one of the main metrics that determines whether or not my program is actually even eligible for strong workforce is starting pay in the industry. And the reason I bring this up is the city uses as its formula for calculating standard pay is just taking 25% of the median income in an industry and using that 25% value as the starting pay. So like this last strong workforce round we applied for, we were successful, but our starting pay number in LA County was somewhere around $17.20. And as in the industry, I know like starting pay for the iron workers is almost $30 an hour. And so it's if we could get some help from the industry to get the city to recognize what actual starting pay numbers are in the industry, would make getting funding to actually teach these students the skills they need to go out there much more accessible.
I would say it's not very difficult for the state to do this. They have the standards. They established the prevailing wages for all the classifications of workers. And so the welders are not, like you said, there's multiple crafts. that welding is a part of. And every one of those crafts is definitely not going to start off at $17 an hour. And so I would say just look at the prevailing wages. They should really, during the next round of competition or even now, I would submit that to them. They can go to their own website, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, it kind of blew my mind when I heard what their formula for computing that number is. But if we could get, and I don't know what this would look like or how this would be formulated, but to have the industry promoting more of the wages to get the state to understand it.
Well,
Like
what I can do is I can run a report that gives you the total number of hours for electricians,
Mhm.
total amount earned, total wages earned, and then we can divide it, and then you have the average hourly wage. I can do that for
Oh, yeah.
electrical, for carpenters, iron workers, because again, we collect all this information through certified payroll.
Absolutely.
And this is, like you said, real on the ground data. And so I can make that available to you. I'm gonna go ahead and, well, you have my information, through this process here. But if you can reach out to me, I'll go ahead and have our team, generate those reports. Because I really think it'll go a long way in showing how critically important it is, because there is a demand for certified welders, in every one of these crafts.
Oh, yeah. No, tremendously. It's just figuring out how to get those numbers to the right people in Sacramento to ignite, and particularly the strong workforce program, to get them to understand that they're out there.
Okay, not a problem, at least from our standpoint.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one more question. Does anyone have final question they want to ask our panelists before we start to wrap up here? All right, well, it looks like we don't have a final question. I'll hand it over to Alicia now to run the feedback poll, and we'll start to close up.
Thanks, Jared. So I'm gonna launch a feedback poll, and we would really appreciate any feedback from this as well. Yeah, thank you so much. This has been really insightful. And Jose, I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia, and thank you, Jared. I just want to add last remarks. So again, echoing one more time, big thank you to our panelists, Praful, Veronica, Josh. Very, very valuable information. Really appreciate it. Dr. McKeegan and team for organizing this. Thank you so much. And as well as for all the attendees, I think, it's very necessary for you to be in these type of conversations. So again, we'll follow up with a recording that we'll be posting on LARC's website, as well as the lookbook that contains the data that was gathered here. You also have information on the panelists. So I'll pass it on to Jermaine, who I think wants to add some last comments. But once again, I thank you all for attending, and I think it was a great advisory.
Yes, thank you again, Jose. Yeah, no comments. I'm just kind of floored with all of the great information that I heard. We work really closely with all of the employer partners that are on the call today. And I know that Praful in particular, we have a whole infrastructure committee through our executive committee at LADC that we're going to be working on some additional initiatives. And I'm sure this will come up in discussion as well. But for LAX Airport and Veronica and Josh as well with Clark Construction, I can assure you they will all, including Praful, move mountains to make sure that they support equitable outcomes for the region. And so that being said, thank you to the employer partners. Thank you to our educational providers on the call today. And I just want to make sure that we connect and move things forward. And thank you to LARC for providing this opportunity.
Jose, can I have a quick second? I don't want to keep everyone on the call, but I do also want to share my appreciation to everyone. A very insightful discussion. There's lots of opportunities and lots of areas of growth for us as a regional consortium representing the 19 colleges. So we're happy to help coordinate any kind of connections to ensure that those gaps are filled. So we'll all be in connection with you. Ensure that we send you to the right individuals to help fill those roles and provide opportunities for all of our region. So thank you so much for everything and for your partnership. And thank you, LAEDC. This has been very insightful and we appreciate the partnership as well.
Thank you, Dr. McKeegan. With that being said, again, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and we'll follow up. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all. Take care. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.